welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today your co-host this week is Macio. Welcome back, Macio.
Thanks for having me, man. Like clockwork, close to E3, I get on the show.
Is it already here almost? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's two more weeks and we get the Jeff Keighley E3.
Right, yeah. The summer of games. No E3 this year, but we're getting that. That's
yeah.
Although Keighley's on my bad list. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news. This week we have the What's New on Netflix, the June 2022 highlights. And then we end the show with the Brokehead block, which is what Macio and I have been doing this week, the part of the show where you get to know your hosts a little bit better. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 510. So last week, BioWare apparently leaked some major details about the next Mass Effect game. I don't know how they thought, if anyone thought they were even fooling anyone, but included in the destroy thing for Mass Effect 3, they pretty much said that part was canon to Mass Effect 4 and that Shepard and his crew are all seemingly alive from that destroy ending. They have since attempted to walk back the leak, but male Shep voice actor Mark Meir, he put up fan art on Instagram with the quote, "We're not really the retiring type." So it's pretty much out there that you're going to play a Shepard again in Mass Effect 4.
I don't get what's going on with BioWare, EA, and these voice actors. They just love spilling the beans. Like, you got Mark Meir here basically trying to hint that, he's still doing voice work on the games and that you might play some form of Shepard. Norman Reedus pretty much leaked that, they're doing Death Stranding 2. I'm surprised we haven't heard like Kevin Conroy say, hey, got that new Batman. Just did some voice work for the new Batman game. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to talk about that. Like the destroy ending, like going from that and basically saying that again, Shepard somehow survived the fucking event that he should have got killed from again. Like, I get, like, we don't really need to play a Shepard though. Like, they don't have to go the Andromeda route where it's like nothing is connected pretty much, but it doesn't have to be a Shepard. Like, I would like, why do we have to play a human? Like, why we can't play any of the other alien races? Like, that'd be fire if you could play like a Krogan or something.
That would be amazing, but it's because of Andromeda that they're going back to the well. They're going back to, let's get these fans back that are so invested in the alien stories and what happened with the Krogans and what happened with all of this, all of the fans that hated the ending to Mass Effect 3. We need to get them back because they're not going to come back for Andromeda 2. And the best way to do that is to have them play their Shepard again. Because as soon as they say, will you play a new character this time, it could either be an alien, it could be another human. They would all demand, if you're going to have Mass Effect 4 and it's going to continue the events from Mass Effect 3, that they should have Shepard back. That's why they're doing it. I think they're not taking any chances with Mass Effect 4, especially with how Andromeda did. Because if Mass Effect 4 sinks, I think that'd be it for the Mass Effect series.
That makes sense, and I get it. But the thing that EA, BioWare, that they never bring up when these type of projects fail is who was working on the game. They didn't have the main BioWare team working on Mass Effect Andromeda. They pitched it off to their side studio team, and then they had to crunch like crazy to get what we got with Andromeda. So if they would have had the main writers, the main developers working on Mass Effect Andromeda, they could have came up with something that made sense, that was written well, like that gave you that feeling when you first played Mass Effect 1. Like when we all first played Mass Effect 1, it was like you went and you pressed start, you went to the journal and you read the fucking backstory because you wanted to get more information, you wanted to get immersed. Andromeda didn't give you that feeling, even though it was a bunch of new alien races. It was a whole new different story. They had way more stuff that they could add to Andromeda that was brand new, fresh in the game, but it wasn't written well. Like the dialogue wasn't written well. And now that I'm going back and I'm playing the Legendary Edition, like all the dialogue in aspect isn't really all the greatest, but
Right.
the story overall is good, and the choices that you can make, whether they're good or bad, sometimes have like crazy funny moments in them. So that's what it's like, B movie type. It's still enjoyable.
It's like classic sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I like Mass Effect 1. That's why I like Mass Effect 2. And I haven't got back to, I'm almost done with Mass Effect 2, trying to get to 3. But it gives you that feeling like, man, you want to know everything. You want to know everything about the whole world. And that's what they need to get to. Like, it doesn't have to be about Shepard. Like, in the grand scheme of it, Shepard was small when it came to the games. Like, we knew more about all the other shit that was going on before we knew about Shepard. Everybody Shepard had a really small basic backstory and that you built onto. So by the time he got to Mass Effect 3, he had this grand story about how he or she was like the ultimate, soldier, basically, that always got the job done no matter what. But now it's like we have to dig back. We don't really need to dig back in that well. We can just carry on from it, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to go back and defend Andromeda here because I am a big fan of that game, and I would have liked 2 more sequels. No matter how, even if it were made by the original crew from the original Mass Effect series, if it had just come out with that same meme of here are the early graphics, here's these weird facial things that are happening with the game, and it got killed before launch because of that. Immediately the impression to gamers were this game is unfinished, which means it's not good, which means it's unplayable. It was a giant joke. And I remember they patched it within a week or 2, and I never ran into major issues even before the patch. So I was fine with it, but it didn't matter because gamers immediately said, okay, that game is a joke. Fuck that Mass Effect. And in spite of how great the game is, and I do think it is a really good game, it didn't matter. People were going to shit on it. The reputation was finished on it. It was one of those moments, and I don't know if it's happened since then quite to that level, maybe Cyberpunk, but it was one of those moments where the internet could really kill the success of a game, no matter the quality of it. So I don't know if the original writers would have saved that game at all, no matter how good it would have been. That alone, unfortunately, killed it. And I do think it's awesome. I thought it was on par with Mass Effect 3 and 2. 2 is my favorite one still, but it's not at all like the Gotham or the Arkham games where Arkham Origins was significantly not as good as Arkham City or Arkham Asylum. Yeah. I still thought it was an excellent addition to the games. And it is a shame, but I totally understand where they're going with this. Now, I will see some kind of backlash on people already, the Destroy ending being the canon ending to the game, because now gamers are going to think, okay, so my choice is no longer the canon for part 4. Yeah. And I guess you could just choose to end it there. But my question is going to be, and I'm afraid of this answer, my save file from Mass Effect 3 on PS3, I'm assuming I won't be able to use that old file up to past. That's why they released Legendary, right?
Yeah. And well, I don't think Legendary Edition to carry over your story, but I mean that would be dope if you could. But yeah, there's absolutely zero way that they can get that save from Mass Effect 3 from your PlayStation without you having to do, like, maybe they might have some way to convert what you did if they like patched the game, but like does the PS3 servers, do those shits even work anymore? Like, like I don't know. I have no idea. I know the 360 ones still do, because just off the fact that the Xbox Series X and Xbox One is backwards compatible with the 360. Mm-hmm. So they still have Xbox Live up and running. But then EA would probably have to spin up a server or something to be able to transfer your save over, take that, and then mesh it with the new game. So like if they would have to have picked a canon ending, or they would have to let you pick at like the beginning when they go over the whole story. Mm-hmm. They would have to let you at least maybe not go through every single thing that Shepard did, but at least the last thing, the last, like, did you save everyone? Did you destroy? So yeah, I get why they're doing it, but it does make sense to just pick a canon. And that's why I'm like, if you guys are going to do that and you're going to force people to say, oh, the destroy ending is the canon ending, then why even make you play a Shepard? Because people are connected to their Shepard. So the only people that are not going to care are the people that have never played the game at all.
Or chose the destroy ending.
Or yeah.
Yeah, they might pull a Mass Effect 2 where when the first one was not available on PlayStation, you can choose all the options from the first Mass Effect,
Yes.
which was kind of neat. So I'm guessing they'll do, here, create your Shepard, and you can make it look like the Shepard you're used to as close as possible. And then here's all the options if you want. Or it'll just throw you in the game. Because I remember in Mass Effect 2, it was like, okay, we could just do the canon choices, and that's it. And that's kind of where it threw you in.
And the whole other thing, the different versions of Unreal that the game is ran on. Like, I'm pretty sure at Mass Effect 3 might have ran on Unreal Engine 3. And then like Mass Effect 1 ran on Unreal Engine 2. But now they're on like Unreal Engine 5. And a lot of that stuff doesn't carry over. And that was the whole reason why certain things they couldn't do on the Legendary Edition, they couldn't do to the game because, Mass Effect 1 ran on Unreal Engine 2, I think. And it wasn't able to like upgrade through, like, a lot of the stuff from Unreal Engine 3 could go up to Unreal Engine 4, but it would break a lot of things in that original Mass Effect. And that's why they just kept it at that and just up-res the game and add some like filtering on the textures and stuff. So when you think about it like that, like, how can, if they upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 on Mass Effect 4, like, how can you ever make your character look like the like the one from Mass Effect 2, 1, 2, and 3? Like, you can't. It's going to look completely different. The graphics look different. The faces look different. They have all new tech with that. So to me, I don't think they're going to let you carry over really anything. In my opinion, I just can't see them, even with the Legendary Edition being a thing. I don't think they can just be like, well, yeah, carry that shit over. Especially because I don't think the new Mass Effect is even going to work on the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think it's going to be current gen only.
Yeah, I do believe that too. Unless they really downgrade the game to where it doesn't use the latest Unreal Engine, and then it is a hybrid release of PS4, PS5, and then Xbox One and Xbox Series, then you can kind of get away with it, and more of that stuff would be able to carry over. Which would also make sense as to why they'd release a Legendary for last gen systems. So I don't know, but if you're right and they go straight up Unreal Engine 5, you said, the current one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and that game is going to be a lot more expensive though. So I really don't know if EA is going to invest that much into Mass Effect 5. I think they just, or 4, they just said work with what we have already, make that game work, run with it, and release it on 4 consoles and call it a day. I think that's what's going to happen, but I don't know if they've even confirmed if it's what consoles it's releasing for. It's still so early.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, if it's not coming until 2024, which I think it will get delayed in 2023, they'll push it back to 2024. By then, Sony is saying that they're going to be able to be producing 25 million consoles a year, back to like pre-pandemic levels with the PS4 when they were just cranking out consoles. So if that's the case, and Microsoft has, cloud gaming going, they got their sales on Series X, PC is still going to be PC. There's going to be a lot of new consoles that people will be able to just go ahead and play the game on those new consoles, and they might just not need to put it out on the Xbox One and the PS4. Like, the Legendary Edition made sense because there wasn't even, when they first announced it, there was no Series X and PS5. Obviously, they had the dev, but even when it came out, the new consoles had only been out for like 3 or 4 months. So it wouldn't have worked anyway. Like, there wouldn't have been, even if it wasn't a pandemic and consoles were getting cranked out at normal capacity, it still wouldn't have been enough people to play and buy the game if it was only next gen only. So they had to put it out on those older consoles.
Well, speaking of PlayStation, it looks like they are trying to produce some new shows to hit the benchmark that Microsoft did with the Halo show on Paramount Plus. So they're trying. We've got a TV adaptation of the popular game Horizon Zero Dawn, and that's officially in development for Netflix. They revealed that this week. PlayStation's Jim Ryan also confirmed that a God of War TV adaptation was in the works at Amazon and that a Gran Turismo TV adaptation was in development through an unspecified service. I've never played Horizon Zero Dawn. I've seen a ton of fan art. People seem to like it. Is this something that you think could work as a TV show?
I think so. I like what Sony's doing with their IPs. I think the best thing that they're doing with it is selling them off to the highest bidder instead of just saying we're putting all these on Netflix or we're putting all of these on Amazon. It would be better for Sony fans because then they could just buy the one thing, the one streaming service, and be able to watch everything. But in the grand scheme of Sony, it makes sense for them to just sell to the highest bidder, and wherever it works, it works. Horizon Zero Dawn is supposed to have a really good story. I have never played the games, but it does have a lot of fans, and I could easily see it being something like The Witcher, where people watch it and they don't even know what the fuck it's about. They don't know that it's a video game, and it's just an interesting story. Maybe if it's shot well, if it has really good cinematography like the games do, the games graphics are incredible. So if they have that good cinematography, it'll probably have to be something like Avatar. It would have to look something like that. And if they can make it look like that, then they'll be going through the roof. The problem with that though is that since it's going on Netflix, and I can guarantee you that most people do not have the 4K HDR Netflix streaming option. Everybody has the 1080p because no one's paying fucking $22 a month for Netflix. So that's going to be the problem there, because it's not going to look as good as the games. The games you can play in 4K, the fucking show, you're going to be watching in 1080p. So they might have a problem with that one. Out of this list, the one that worries me is the Gran Turismo. What the fuck? A racing TV show?
Yeah, make it like Fast and Furious.
But that's the thing. Like Gran Turismo is more like track racing. It's nothing like Fast and Furious. I know you could probably finesse it,
right?
Just make it into whatever you want. But then why even put the Gran Turismo name on it? Like,
cool title, recognition.
I guess the God of War one I think would have been better. I would have switched it around, and I would have had Uncharted be a TV show and God of War be a movie.
Oh,
to me, that makes more sense. That makes way more sense. But I don't know. I guess Amazon would probably be a good bet. But I think like the amount of CGI you need, it can't be a TV show. It has to be a movie, a big budget movie. So that one I'm kind of also iffy on, but we'll see.
I think I was talking to Matt about God of War. I can't recall, but they were saying that they didn't want it to be like a Monster of the Week, the God of War show, where, okay, this time he fights the Hydra, this time he fights this, and instead that it's going to be tough to work into a show because how's he going to go through all the gods on a TV budget? And I understand that streaming, a lot of money is going into it. We're seeing that with David Zaslav and all the money he's pumping into what's going to be Warner Brothers Discovery, the streaming app, as opposed to maybe movies. I think that the mentality now is we could make a big movie, or we can use that money to produce season 1 of 2 shows or something like that. I think that seems to be what they're going for. I don't know. But that's why I do agree, though. God of War would be amazing on the big screen with giant special effects. It's not a complex story. You really have to write in a lot into God of War if you're just adapting the first game. And I'm guessing they're going to do, and that's the other thing. Are they going to do the current one with the Norse mythology? Are they going to go back to the beginning? There's so many questions about it.
Yeah, like, are they going to do, like, are they going to try to tie that father-son story from the newer games into the show? Are they going to go back to, Kratos fucking women? Like, what type of art direction are we going in? And then on top of that, Norse, are we doing Norse mythology? Are we going back to the Greek mythology? In the grand arcing thing, like, the one thing is how long are these episodes going to be? Are we looking at a 40-minute show, a 25-minute show? And the length of the season, like, if it's 40 minutes, are we looking at 5 episodes, 6 episodes, or are we doing like a 10-episode thing? It's a lot of variables going on, and the story's weird. But they're announcing all these things. But are they saying, like, who's directing them? who's the showrunner, who's writing. That's the more important part, in my opinion.
And as you said, they are going the largest, biggest bidder route on this one. There's a whole roster of other adaptations PlayStation has under its belt or in the works. The Last of Us is from HBO Max, is on its way. Twisted Metal at Peacock has been making cast announcements. So they are definitely in the game of, yeah, who wants to make a show out of these IPs? We'll take a little cut of it, have your fun. And that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing other gaming companies do this, and PlayStation seems to be the most willing to not necessarily be the least protective of their IP, but more like, okay, let's see what you guys can do. And they're not as worried of, if the show fails, okay, we still have the games. I really don't think the shows are going to hurt the sales of the video games if they end up flopping.
The one I think might be the best out of these is probably going to be The Last of Us, just because it's on HBO Max. They'll be able to go into that deep, rich, very dark story that The Last of Us has and be able to produce that very well. The only problem with that is that HBO Max also has a lot of fucking post-apocalyptic shit on their service. So if you're the type of person that kind of hates watching the same thing over and over, watching these post-apocalyptic shows, you might just go ahead and pass on it. But I think that's going to be the best one out of this list.
And I think you're right on as far as which one is going to be the most accessible to the audience, because I don't know about you, but I don't see gamers of or fans of these series being the success story of that show. I think they learned their lesson with Cowboy Bebop, or they should have, of let's not necessarily let's make something out of a classic thing, but you need to make it accessible to people in their 40s or 50s, the general audience that are your base to that streaming service like Netflix or HBO Max, because gamers are a small fraction of your viewers. Most of them are, you've seen it with them, where they're like, oh, all adaptations suck, I'm not even going to give it a chance. So instead you make your success with your current subscriber base. The Halo series, I would love to see the demographics on that, because it is a success story for Paramount Plus. They talked about how their sub numbers grew when that series launched. And I would like to see how well that series did among its viewers, and how many of them even know, like you were saying, that it is based on a video game. Kelly's dad is watching Halo right now, and he didn't know that it was I don't think he knew it was a game. I know for sure he's like, I've never played the games, I've never seen it. And he's liking it because he's into sci-fi.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like that. And that's how I feel what happened with The Witcher. I think that was just mostly people just seeing that, like, maybe those people that might not have HBO have the ability to watch a Game of Thrones type show, and they saw The Witcher and they were enthralled with it. So I think that's what's going to be like key, is people watching the show and getting enthralled, getting hooked on whichever way they go. And that's why I think that The Last of Us has the best opportunity, because the game in and of itself is about the relationships, the strong writing and between the characters and the character development. And that's what HBO is perfect at. They pretty much every show, whether it's Curve, whether it's The Wire, with Station 11, it's always about those characters interacting and how they mesh with the relationships and how the story all builds together. So it's going to probably be the best one out of the bunch compared to these other ones. Like Netflix just throws money at anything.
Yeah, well, they used to. They're in trouble now.
Yeah. But that's a lot of companies. A lot of companies are in trouble. They've just been burning bread like for the past 2 years. And now it's all, rearing its ugly head.
I want to touch on The Last of Us real quick before I had it in the Brocat block Halo, but this is perfect to discuss it. Initially, I was worried about The Last of Us being picked up because of the negative reception that the second game had. It lost all its fans. It seems like a majority of the fans really didn't like the game from what I was seeing online. So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of a bad pickup but then again, I'm like, what I said earlier, those fans are not going to go see The Last of Us, the show, I don't think. And I don't think that they should be concerned with catering to gamers. And that kind of brings me to Halo, where I've seen very positive reception. I'm loving the show. I think it is good. And then I'm seeing some negative ones from Halo fans because it is departing from the game. There's a lot of, we're doing our own thing. This is not canon with the games. It's its own separate universe. which I think is a good thing. It lets the writers tell the story that they feel they need to. So how important do you think it is to cater to the gamers of these series that are being picked up?
I don't think it's very important, mostly because, like in the example of Halo or the example of Last of Us, they have a loud minority that like to just scream, bicker, moan, and complain about everything. With The Last of Us, that was just the fucking losers that are, and the type of people that women like. If it's not this type of woman at the forefront of the game, then it has to be a man. And it was a lot of people complaining about the story, but the grand majority, like it was still, as those people were complaining about the game, it was still one of Sony's best-selling games for the PlayStation 4. It still had the best reviews for the PlayStation 4. It still did very well for Sony. And if the directors and the people that write the show, all they have to do if they want to avoid that backlash is just change the fucking character. Just get the actress to play that part of the woman that got so many people's panties in a bunch. Just get a regular woman, just a plain Jane, not super muscular buff woman. Just get a plain Jane woman to play her, and then you just wipe away all the fucking bitching and moaning about that. So that is like an easy fix. But even then, like those people, half of those people that were complaining, they don't even play video games, let alone play PlayStation, let alone play The Last of Us 2. Like those people were just whining, complaining because they wanted to have something to be outraged at.
Gotcha. And you being a massive Halo fan, have you gotten around to watching the show? And if you have, what do you feel about people's thoughts on the things that they have changed in the show compared to the games and the novels?
I'm not like huge on the novels. I've only read one. When it comes to the games, like, yeah, it's nothing like the games. Like the story is not like the games. Master Chief isn't like how he is in the games or in the novels. So if you're looking in that aspect, it's kind of disappointing. But as it's a show on its own, if you look at it like that, it's fine. It's nothing to me. It's not incredible, but it's fine. I watch it. It's serviceable. I don't know that I would like buy the Blu-ray the season or anything like that, but it does stray a little bit too far away from the games for me. Certain characters that you're used to being stoic aren't. Certain characters that you would think would act a certain way kind of don't, and that's kind of odd. You're playing the games, and like Halsey cares a little bit more than she does on the show or in the games than the show. Like it's kind of odd and it's off-putting. But when you kind of just blank that out and you just watch the show, it's not bad. So you got to have a different mindset. It's just like the people that watch comic book movies and they're like, well, that's not like the comic book. And it's like, well, which comic book? There's there's 5 different variations. That's not the case with Halo. The books, like how Master Chief, how Halsey, how all these people are in the books, that's how they are in the game for the most part. So when you then flip it and then you're watching the show and it's like absolutely nothing alike, if you don't get that warning ahead of time, like, hey, this isn't like the show, you're going to be like, well, what am I watching right now?
Right.
So that's how I feel about it. It's good, but I think I would like a show that was more or less like the games.
Even while watching it, I haven't gone through the story of the games, but I'm like, okay, this is definitely a written for TV. Here's John Halo's journey. Here's Quan's journey. We're all these characters, the villain, they're all going to go through changes by the end of the season, and they're already setting these up. Like John Halo is going to become more human, and so is the villain actually, because she was raised among the aliens, and then Quan's going to find her place in the world now that she doesn't have her village and her family anymore. She's going to find her new family, probably in John Halo and in the planet that she's in currently. So it's just kind of, when I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I definitely don't see any of this happening in any of the games, and that's okay. I think, you can't really do, you won't be able to match the excitement of a first-person shooter in a TV show unless you just make it full-on action, and that's definitely not, I haven't seen a show successfully do that and carry on for seasons. You have to have character building. You have to have environmental setups, which I love, by the way, that there's fucking sets on this show instead of all green screen. Like, that's amazing. When you're watching, I'm like, holy shit, they built a fucking little train station. It's beautiful. And I thought Paramount Plus really seemed to give the show the budget that it seems to have deserved. There's some parts like some of the brutes don't look right in some scenes, but otherwise, for the most part, it seems like they are really trying.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. It's like when you read like a synopsis of the story, it's like, oh man, that sounds like a dope story when you're reading a synopsis about the games. But like, if like some people were like, oh, all they had to do was just take Halo 1 and then make that the show. And I'm like, when you play Halo 1, if you read a synopsis of it, it's like fine. But like, for the most part, it's just fucking Master Chief solo with Cortana maybe piping in here and there. Half the fucking time, there's no other people with you. So it's just Master Chief and Master Chief alone, just shooting people. Like, that's not an entertaining show. There's no story, there's no backstory, there's no other characters. And if you wanted to go that way and say, oh, well, just give Master Chief a team, well, then that's not Halo 1.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to do something to change to make it so that there's some type of story, character building, world building in it. Because in Halo 1, it's a lot of the world building is just visual. Like, you have to be paying attention. There's so many people that have played Halo 1 and like, they're like, oh, there's no story, like, or the story is basic. And it's like, oh, did you pay attention to how they showed you that these guys got killed and their Pelican flipped over and now you're saving them? Like, you got to pay attention to the visual storytelling as well as the audio story, as well as the actual just them feeding you the dialogue. So it wouldn't work as a show, in my opinion. They would have had to change a lot to make Halo 1 be a TV show.
And it goes back to that whole thing of, let's say they did it exactly like Halo 1, then the complaints would be, well, it's just the game. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
They just did the game. Why couldn't they do something different?
Exactly.
And because we are in this time period and it is this month, we can't seem to escape the Johnny Depp trial against Amber Heard.
God.
Can't escape it because there's DC news that came out of this. During the cross-examination at the Heard and Depp trial, Amber Heard revealed that her role in the upcoming Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was severely cut down. So there were some questions about this last week we didn't know that if her role was going to get cut down. There's these petitions that had reached, I forget how many signatures. And we know those don't really do anything, but it gets the headline out there of fans did not want her in the new Aquaman. They wanted her recast. And some are saying Johnny Depp should play Mera in the new movie. So there's all kinds of great jokes. I'm sorry?
Who wanted her in the first movie?
In the first Aquaman?
Yeah.
Well, Zach cast her in the Snyder Cut, and to keep continuity, she continued into Aquaman. So he did a lot of those castings, like Jason Momoa, who went in to play Bruce, and then Zach said, I want you for Aquaman instead. So it was Zach that cast her in the Snyder Cut, and then from there they picked her up for the movies.
Yeah, because to me, at least in Aquaman 1, she had the worst acting in the movie. It would be tied with her and Black Manta. They had the worst acting in the movie. Like, they were not good, just not good. So to me, I'm like, it's good that they're paring her down in Aquaman 2, because she wasn't really all that good in Aquaman 1.
And what's weird is she's decent in the Snyder Cut for some reason.
Yeah.
But she's terrible in Aquaman.
I don't know. Maybe they just chose like really bad takes or something.
I guess, or they're like, yeah, that's good enough. we'll make $1 billion. We'll make a little bit of money, and then it made $1 billion. Well, out of this, in her testimony, she said, quote, "I fought really hard to stay in the movie. They didn't want to include me in the film. A very pared down version of that role, yes," end quote. And this was after she was being asked if she was able to film scenes as Mera for the movie. She had also said Walter Hamada was the one who made the decision, but Walter didn't really want her, and they had to really convince her agent, had to convince him, like, please, no higher rate, just the same rate as the first Aquaman. And he was like, fine. And that's why he was called into the trial too, to confirm all of this.
That's why she had to hold that $7 million, huh? She had to keep Johnny $7 million because she didn't get a raise like all the other people.
Because it was Johnny's fault, is what they're trying to say.
Yeah. Wow. Darn.
And
Sucks for her.
former Hollywood producer Catherine Arnold also said during the trial, quote, "She wasn't getting the scripts when her colleagues were getting the scripts. She heard that through her agents, and then when she got the script, it was pared down from the first script dramatically," end quote. So they already knew that this trial was going to mess up the film, and as things were heating up, and it's like, okay, they are moving forward with this trial, let's play it safe and just cut her down. That doesn't shock me at all. It's definitely, I think any movie studio would play this route, and if anything, they would just cut her down in editing. And from what we heard, this is spoilers for the movie. I personally don't care. I'm not going to go see it. But near the beginning of the movie, she ends up in the hospital while pregnant or giving birth to their baby. She was supposed to show up again in the final act of the scene. There's this big action sequence. They cut her out of that. So she just shows up at the very beginning of the movie and then at the very end of the movie after the whole fight.
Wow, man, they really cut her out like that. that's a deep cut. Because then you could tell she probably definitely had a bigger role. The thing is with that, like, they played it super safe, because if it would have came out in trial that Johnny Depp was a woman beating piece of shit, then we didn't cut her out of the movie. She's in the movie.
Yep.
She might not be in the movie a lot, but she's still in the movie. We still cast her.
We stood by her.
Yeah, but then if the flip side happens, then they can say, well, our hands are kind of tied. She already played Mara in the first one in Justice League, so we kind of had to put her in the movie, but we cut her down so you don't see her a lot. And, she didn't get a lot of money to play the role, so they played both sides very well. And then if she somehow comes out as a good person out of this trial, and they need to put her in the next Aquaman or in any other DC stuff, then they can just boost her role in the next movie.
Dude, they'll give her her own movie if she ends up winning. I bet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or if she at least comes out good. And I don't know if that's really going to happen. I think fan perception's already kind of wrecked that career for her. That did give me the question of, all these spoilers kept coming out during the trial of the plot points in Aquaman 2 and also in Dune 3 because of Jason Momoa coming up in the conversation, since he does star in this movie. And a colleague and I were talking about it, Bobby and I were talking about it of, is the NDA worse than like not telling the truth during the trial? Or does NDA go away when you're in a trial? Like, how much could they really reveal? For example, when Hamada was in there, if you were asked something about the Snyderverse coming back, anything like that, could NDAs just immediately go away during this? Or is it, as Bobby said, they'll just pay the NDA fees because you're under oath in the trial. You can't, it's worse to lie on the oath.
Well, I think they would probably have like their lawyers there, and they would probably say like, hey, like, approach the bench, like, hey, this is, we have this under NDA. Like, what does this have to do with the trial? Like, this guy's asking about the Snyder cut. What does that have to do?
Who's this Daniel guy?
Yeah. Like, what does that have to do? You'd have to be on some like, oh, well, we're asking about the Snyder cut because she might have a part in that next movie. So we need to know if there's a Snyder cut part 2, part 3 for Justice League, because she's supposed to be in them. And then they would have to be like, oh God, like, that's bullshit. Or, it would be something. So I feel like NDAs, it depends on what it is. It has to be connected to the trial. And then at that point, you don't have a choice. It's not like you're choosing to break the NDA. You're not going on Ellen and being like, yeah, Snyder Cut's coming. You're basically saying like, hey, I was asked this. I can't lie under oath. And maybe you might be able to say like, I plead the fifth, or, oh, I don't recall. That seems like to be like the favorite thing when you go into trial. Just, oh, I don't remember. I don't recall that happening. I don't recall saying that I was going to greenlight a Snyder Cut 2 and 3, but I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Because I was hoping that question would come up during the trial of, well, you're set to star in Justice League 2 and 3, and she would have been in there based on the nightmare sequence, and it never came up. I was like, oh shit. Almost. We also have some Marvel news here. It's not often that we get it, but this is a positive coverage of Marvel, MCU specifically. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Midness has become the second biggest box office performer since 2020. It passed this year's The Batman, the Pattinson movie. A Doctor Strange movie, Macio, outdid a Batman film.
It's dire times, man. Like, I still don't think if you put Doctor Strange on like a T-shirt, I still feel like there will be so many people that's like that wouldn't even know what the fuck you're wearing. Versus like the Batman logo is just that's iconic. You can go to Antarctica and the fucking penguins would be like, "Oh, that's Batman." Like everybody knows what Batman is, and it couldn't make more money than Doctor Strange. Like, damn, man, how the mighty have fallen.
That's how terrible. And I see all these excuses like, well, it was going to be on HBO Max 45 days later. It's like, yeah, that's 45 fucking days later.
Yeah, nobody knows that.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to that. We see that's not being put on the commercial.
No.
When you're watching the shit on TV, when you're watching TV, when you're watching YouTube, it doesn't say Batman in theaters now and coming to HBO Max 45 days later. No, it just says the movie is coming out on this day or it's in theaters now. I didn't know that shit was coming to HBO Max. I went to the movie theater and watched it. So they got my money. And then fucking a month and a half later, I'm like, damn, this on HBO Max. I could have saved some money.
Well, and you can use the same excuse for Doctor Strange because that's also going to be on Disney Plus. So that's not, I don't think that washes it. I think if anything, it talks about how bad the state of Warner Brothers is. That's how badly handled these characters have been. They even charged more per tickets for the Batman specifically. AMC did. They were overcharging for tickets on that movie, and it still couldn't do better than when you adjust for inflation, movies like the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad. That movie made $800 million, something like $600 million, and you adjust for inflation, and it sold more tickets than the Batman film. I love that statistic. So congratulations to MCU and Doctor Strange, and I hope Jurassic World Dominion also does better than the Pattinson film. And this whole thing of like, well, I thought it was good. That doesn't matter. That is irrelevant to the performance of this film.
Yeah, and at this point, they kind of just have to stick with the guns on it, right? Like they can't just be like, oh, well, reboot Batman again. Like they just have to hope that whatever time, money that they spent into this, that it rolls into the next one, and somehow that is the $1 billion movie. Like that's what they have to hope for at this point.
Right, and they announced that sequel in hopes that it would help boost more sales. Internally, the rumor is that they needed this to hit $1 billion, and it didn't. Like that was the expectation, and now Discovery is apparently very unimpressed with all of these movies. So, good news for people that want Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada fired. And if Jurassic World Dominion does better than the Batman, you'll be hearing about it here too. Speaking of which, there is more to the future of Jurassic World, as the franchise producer, Frank Marshall, confirmed that more movies will happen after Dominion releases next month. This makes me really happy. They kept talking about how this was the last in the series. It wraps everything up. We're bringing back the actors from the first film. And I'm like, come on, I need more dinosaur shit for Leo to watch. We need more of it. So when asked by Slash Film, he replied, quote, "Yeah, absolutely. I think that Dominion's going to wrap up this trilogy, but we're not resting on our laurels. We're going to sit down and we're going to see what the future is." End quote.
So to you, does this quote mean that they're going to sit down and we might have to wait like 4 years for the next Jurassic Park movie? Or do you think that means like, oh, we're just going to continue. We're going to stick with Chris Pratt, and we're going to keep pushing, like just come up with a new story, come up with a bigger, better, crazy T-Rex dinosaur and keep pushing like that? Or do they sit down and they actually like draft up something like fresh, original, and 4 years later we get another set of trilogy?
Well, this is the problem. Obviously, it's going to depend on how Dominion ends, because they've set up this movie where in the world, dinosaurs are running around. They're a part of everyday life. You see people on horses, like rounding up dinosaurs and shit. Like it's just, we've integrated them into our culture at this point. We're probably hunting them and serving them in restaurants. We're trying to run away from them in certain areas. When T-Rexes are out and about, there's probably T-Rex alerts in this world or whatever. So how much bigger can you really get from there? And this is where I discussed a couple of weeks back of they could do a thing where, oh, we've released something that kills all the dinosaurs except for the select few because life finds a way. Maybe they kill all the dinosaurs in this movie somehow by releasing something into the atmosphere But then you see an egg that hatches and it's like, oh, here we go again. One of those things. Or you reboot the fucking thing. I don't really see how you can move forward with this outside of where else can you go when they're already throughout the world?
Yeah, it's difficult, especially because if you sit down for X amount of years, whatever new technology we might get in between that time, you're gonna have to incorporate that into the movie, because it's in like now times, like in current times. It's not still back in like the 90s.
Mhm.
Like, so either they have to go back and do prequels, or they have to stick with the current times. And then, like, how do you incorporate, like, I don't know what new technology we might have. Like, right now it's smartphones and solar, it's electric cars, but in 2 or 3 years we might have some crazy shit, and it's going to be like, oh, we got dinosaurs running around with this type of technology. Like, come on, man, like that's not fucking happening. So it's going to be difficult if they sit down for a while, and if they just crank out another one with a new set of people, and then all they're going to do is just try to pull on nostalgia by bringing back some old characters from earlier movies. Yeah, I'm still cool with that. They keep pushing forward though, because it's good to have kids and people still caring about ancient dinosaurs. Like, that shit's cool.
Yeah, it hasn't lost its cool value. Kids still like it. I remember them being huge in the 90s. So, and I think I've mentioned this before, it's because of it's frightening and cool at the same time. So kids really latch onto it. We talked about the future of Discovery a little bit earlier. A new report from The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav is, quote, imposing a mandate that DC movies should now be made with a theatrical first goal, end quote. So the report claims that Zaslav hopes to keep HBO Max exclusive movies within a budget of $35 million and under, in part because mid-budget exclusive movies attract more subscribers to the service. So with its estimated $75 million budget, Zaslav he determined that The Wonder Twins was way too costly for this compared to a limited return made for TV or made for streaming movie, and that Wonder Twins was, quote, too niche, end quote. And this was all according to The Hollywood Reporter's source. So he is not being shy about getting rid of the shit that's costing too much money. They had this movie cast and he's like, no, we're done with that.
That is an insane number for Wonder Twins. $75 million for something that's going straight to HBO Max. How Tamada, how does Emirates, how did they have a job when they were doing shit like this? $75 million on the Wonder Twins. That would have probably had to have been like 99% CGI, just off rip. Super expensive for nothing. Nobody cares about the Wonder Twins. They could have just rebooted a fucking TV show like a cartoon. That would have probably been more profitable. And maybe like just make it like with the same humor as like Harley Quinn or some shit. Like $75 million on the Wonder Twins, and it's only going to be on HBO Max. Like, that's just terrible budgeting. That's terrible. And the fact that he had to money was still spent. Even though this movie wasn't made, they had casting and all that. Like, time was spent. People were getting paid. Like, you don't cast for free. Like, the people that are auditioning, they're doing it for free. But all the people that are working in that time, like, they're getting paid for that.
And if you're cast for the movie, don't you already get a payout if they cancel it?
I would think you get something. And you might not get the full amount, but you definitely get something. So, like, just off rip, like, that's just money just burned. Absolutely burned. What I like about this, the 35 million and under on these movies, like, that makes 100% sense. If it's something that's going straight to HBO Max, and you can make a lot of good movies with $35 million. It might not be like super big budget action movies, but how much did it cost them to make the Joker?
Right.
Like, you can make a good movie with that budget. So that's perfect. Like, keep the cost low and just make really good content.
And that's pretty interesting too, that he's saying DC movies, the mandate, theatrical first. So this is kind of the opposite of what I was saying earlier of, it seems like a lot of movie studios are really taking streaming seriously as far as their different apps. But he's going, DC superhero films need to be on the big screen. And yeah, maybe they'll have little budgets like you mentioned, the $35 million and under, but his main focus seems to be if we have these superheroes, we have these big visuals, they should be theatrical first, and we'll do other stuff for the Warner Brothers Discovery app. Do you think that's smart in this current climate of theaters kind of not struggling, because we're seeing that people will come out and spend $1 billion on a Spider-Man film. So people are willing to go out to theaters. It's just now this mentality has changed of dual release. No, we're doing theater first.
It makes sense if you have the right actors or the right IP. So, like, for example, if they would have said, oh, we're Wonder Twins to the theaters, nah, that's not going to do it. But if you had some really, really good actors tagged to that, might work. If you would have told me that they were making a Black Adam movie, I would say, who's going to watch that? But then you say, oh, The Rock is the Black Adam. Well, now a lot of people are going to watch it because it's The Rock. So it makes sense. Like, if the IP isn't good, you get really good actors, or at least popular actors that can boost the movie and get people in the seats. So that makes sense, especially if that's what they're going to go for. If every movie from now on, any DC movie, if it's a smaller IP, like a Black Adam, like a Green Lantern, if they just we're going to get the biggest name to play these characters, well, then you're going to bring people into the movie theater.
And we have more content outside of DC coming to Warner Brothers Discovery, as according to the Wall Street Journal, Zaslav is looking to make new content related to Harry Potter for HBO Max, and reportedly plans to meet with the very controversial J.K. Rowling, the series creator, in the coming weeks. The recent release of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore opened to a franchise low of only $43 million at the box office, and the final 2 films of the series are not yet set in stone. Obviously, there's this whole thing against J.K. Rowling. A lot of the fans do not like her and are saying that they shouldn't associate. They're trying not to associate her with the films or the books even. But Zaslav, again, doesn't care. He's going to go talk to her and discuss, because she does have a lot of control over the franchise still. They need to okay a lot of things. When they signed her contract way back in the 90s, she needs to sign off on a lot of these projects before they can move forward with it. So he's pretty open about it. It seems like they're instead moving Harry Potter, trying to do things on HBO Max, and not just continuing this Fantastic Beasts franchise, which is now plagued with all sorts of issues between Ezra Miller getting rid of Johnny Depp. It's kind of a mess, and they're not really making money.
Yeah, like, I like what he's doing. I like what Zaslav is doing. Just trying to use the IP that they have and pump that out. Like, that makes sense. It's the same thing what Disney's doing. They got all the fucking little Marvel movies on there. They have 5 different side stories of fucking Star Wars on there. It's an easy way. Just take your IP and put it on your streaming service. They already have Doom Patrol. They already have Harley Quinn. They already have Titans. So it makes sense that they're going to keep on with whatever smaller DC stuff, put it on there. The big name DC stuff, put it in the theaters, and get some Harry Potter related shows onto HBO Max. But the thing is, it has to be Harry Potter. I'm not saying that they have to go get Buddy back, but it does have to be Harry Potter. Like, this Fantastic Beast shit, that shit is dead in the water, man. Like, I don't know if it's because our people our age that grew up with Harry Potter don't give a fuck about it, or it's just not, or we're not giving a fuck about it and pushing it onto our kids. Because, like, that's kind of like how we inherited a lot of the shit that we liked, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That shit wasn't really out like that when we were kids. It was the fact that our parents watched that when they were kids, and they pushed it onto us, and then now we liked it because it was good. So we're supposed to be pushing Harry Potter onto our kids, but we're just showing them the old Harry Potter movies, because we don't give a fuck about this fantastical beast shit. So they gotta find a way. They gotta find a way to make shit pop, because otherwise, like, the Harry Potter IP is just going to be worthless.
That's the problem. Is there aren't really any fascinating characters in Fantastic Beasts. I didn't bother to see the this recent one. And they try to connect them with the movies and the books, like, oh, here's Dumbledore, and here's, oh, there's the teacher from, but it doesn't match with the timeline anyway. So, and it's real just tacked on. You don't have the mystery of, is Snape a good guy or a bad guy, or how is Voldemort getting stronger? None of that stuff, all of the great stuff that they had in the books and in the movies, are not there in Fantastic Beasts. It's instead these very uninteresting characters running around, and I don't care about any of them. I don't give a shit about the villain. And it's just very uninteresting, unfortunately, and it doesn't have me hooked. Maybe I'll check it out if it hits HBO Max, but I'm not going to rush to see it. Now, talking about this show, there was some discussion before on the show here of like, you can do different schools in the Harry Potter universe, or follow another character that, or these other group of students as that story of Harry Potter, like the background of what was going on in Hogwarts while Voldemort and all this shit was happening. Or other people were saying, a lot of fans were suggesting, just do a retelling, a reboot of the Harry Potter books and make it into a show. And now you can really dive into all of the different details from the books and put it into the show, and have another cast of actors that are going to grow up into their roles as you continue the show. So they can really go in a lot of directions. And I think you're right. It should be tied into, or at least get some fucking interesting characters in there. Make J.K. Rowling get in there and write some shit and not just have her sign off on, well, this is what the screenwriters would think would be cool.
At this point, it's like, where the movie's good because of the book or because of J.K. Rowling's input, or where the movie is good because they just casted really well. They got really good actors, and the people that were writing the scripts and doing the directing were good.
True.
Because she has her input on this fantastical beast shit, and look what's going on with it. It's flopping. So I don't know that they need to get J.K. Rowling in there writing stuff. I mean, are the books flying off the shelves? I don't think so. So is her pen game still strong? Does she even know how to write a show or a movie? Like, she can write a book. Then that's a whole different skill set. I don't know that it's on her. Maybe it's just, maybe the books are good. The characters are great in the books and they don't transfer into the show or the movie. Or maybe they just need to find some better writers, some better script writers, get some better directors, some better cinematography, cast better. I mean, they did a good job with Johnny Depp, and then they dropped him. So you got to figure it out somehow.
And I'm guessing some of this money from the canceled CW shows is going into some of these newer projects, which I'm happy about. Get rid of, like they did, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, and The Flash, like they're doing. Use that money towards new stuff like this. Stuff that uses your IP and doesn't try to experiment on new stuff, like we mentioned, the Wonder Twins. Or I was hoping the Blue Beetle movie would get canceled, but now it's filming. The suit has leaked. So that's going to be made one way or the other, but hopefully that kind of shit just doesn't happen moving forward. And that does round out our block of news this week. Now we head into what's new on Netflix, the June 2022 highlights. So the list, just like last month, is getting a little bit lighter, and I think this might have something to do with what's going on with Netflix and losing subscribers, but there are still some things that are pretty interesting here. The very first, The Amazing Spider-Man, starring Andrew Garfield, is hitting Netflix. It's an excellent movie. It's probably my second or third favorite Spider-Man film, and now you can check it out on Netflix.
I'm not a huge fan of the Amazing Spider-Man, to be honest with you. I remember watching it in theaters and leaving and being like, man, I was just trying to watch Spider-Man, but I ended up watching like a romantic comedy kind of. It wasn't really my thing. But that's a good get for Netflix, because a lot of people like it, especially with the nostalgia goggles of Far From Home. Apparently everybody loved this. I don't know why it didn't continue, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, well, the MCU fans now pretend to like it because the character showed up in the new movie. So yeah, you're right. There's some switching of teams all of a sudden happening. Whereas otherwise, people like Millennial Mike were like, it was good the whole time. So I don't know, if you feel like checking it out again, it will be on there. Maybe after seeing it after all these years. I know Millennial Mike and we did a revisit of it, and it was a fun time. It was cool to rewatch it again and see all of the neat little things that maybe we didn't catch, or at least I didn't catch when I missed it the first time, Bobby was on as well, and he was talking about, he made some of the great connections. Bobby reads all of the comic books, and he was like, yeah, there was some neat things in here that they did, like the skateboarding, and just they helped flesh out the movie even more for me this next time that I had seen it. So there's a lot of neat stuff. If you feel like rewatching The Amazing Spider-Man, we do have that retrospective. So if you on the other side haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a couple of years, we do have that retrospective episode that is out now publicly with Bobby and Millennial Mike and I going back and discussing it. The second ASM is not on there, and I do want to go back and rewatch that one, maybe do a retrospective. But this one, I think, from what I remember, is the one I liked more than the second one.
Yeah, I would say I definitely like the first one more than the second one.
Yeah.
I was mad when I saw the second one. I felt like I wasted my money. The first one I didn't enjoy. I felt like it was a decent movie, but I just wasn't expecting that from a Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. It wasn't what I expected compared to like Spider-Man 1 and 2 or even Spider-Man 3. But that second one was just god awful. Like I left the movie. I was pissed that I spent money in there. I would have rather just my wife watched it alone. Let me out of it. It was that bad.
Another one also hitting is an Adam Sandler Netflix original. It's called Hustle. I got to see the trailer for it. Did you check it out? It's like a basketball. It's from the perspective of a basketball recruiter, essentially.
Yeah, I like this movie. I like how Adam Sandler has kind of fallen into these roles after Jesus. What was the movie with the
Diamond Gems or whatever?
Yeah. Uncut Gems. I like how he's fallen into these kind of roles. It's a lot better than, his normal comedy stick. So I'm enjoying this. I'll probably end up watching this one. And it's cool because he actually fucking plays basketball.
Oh, no,
he's
shit.
actually decent. He's actually decent at hooping too. He's not bad. For a guy built like him that moves pretty slow, he's not bad at playing. So it's cool that he kind of found a way to play something that has to do with basketball in a movie.
So we're going to see him running down the court probably at some point. He's probably going to teach someone a lesson or something.
Yeah, he can shoot. He's slow as shit. He's hella slow. And for whatever reason, when he plays basketball, he wears the baggiest clothes ever. Like, it almost looks like a going back into the past, into like the early 2000s, where we all had like the hugest shirts and the biggest fucking shorts for no reason. It's like, well, I don't even know why he still has that shit. It's almost as if he's like, man, I have this. Oh, I'm not playing in some nice clothes. Just grab some shit from like 2001 out of my closet and throw that on the bin.
God, I remember that, man. Buying the XLs instead and swimming in them.
Yeah, bad times.
It's coming back too. You watch, it's going to happen. We're getting the 90s haircuts back.
I ain't gonna lie, I got some oversized t-shirts. I just bought some.
Oh, there you go.
But it's not as extreme as it was before. But it's some people are pulling off the baggy pants look. I'm done with that. Like, it's over for that. Like, I can't do it no more.
Another one hitting Netflix is Jennifer Lopez Halftime. It's a Netflix documentary on her life and career. She just got engaged, or maybe they already got married, but she got engaged with Ben again. I hope that's included in here. I don't know if it will be. Who knows how quickly they finish this one. But I do like the Bennifer story. I'm glad they're back together. If you go back to the background, Kelly had to tell me all about this, the background of why the wedding didn't end up happening. And now after all these years, they've been with all these different people. Ben's gone through recovery and he's had his comeback story. And now they've met up again later on in their careers, older, more mature people, and people that have grown and worked on themselves, hopefully you would hope, and can now work on their relationship together. So I hope that ends up working out well for them. And because of that, and Ben seems really happy with her. So I definitely want to check out this documentary and get to know her more on a more personal level than what we've enjoyed on the big screen and on TV.
Yeah, I just want to know like how deep it's going to get into her music career, because I would love to see like how involved she was, because all the rumors are basically like she was just handed tracks that she had to just sing. Like, she didn't come up with the melody, she didn't write any of the words. So I would love to see if they actually have like behind the scenes footage of her like actually writing a song or coming up with a melody on her own. And then hopefully they go into like, the whole Geely thing. I want to see how that came out and why it was so bad. Maybe they might go a little deep into that. There's a lot of stuff in her story. So between like Selena and Living Color and all that, like going way back from there to like now, she's done a lot. So it's good for her to get that story out there.
And the last one on this list is for anyone that's still watching it, The Umbrella Academy season 3.
Me.
It's based. Oh, you're watching it? Oh, great. So,
Yeah.
How was season 2?
I like season 2. It gets so deep and it's like so absurd now that like season 3, I can already tell from the trailer that it looks insane. So I'm down for it. I'm super pumped. I've been waiting for it for like 2 years. So I'm definitely waiting for this patiently.
Did you ever go back and check out the comic book? Because I remember we sold the fuck out of the trade paperbacks when season 1 came out.
I ain't gonna lie, I did not know it was a comic book.
Up until now?
Until you just said it, I had no fucking idea. I mean, I'm sure when you watch the show, it says like based on something or the other, but I skipped the fucking intro.
Sure.
So I did not know. I honestly didn't.
Yeah, after that season 1, people needed to know what happens next, and they bought up all those volumes. We couldn't get them back. They were out of print. Same thing happened with Invincible, and I was loving it. I was really liking it. And I'm like, yeah, I like The Umbrella Academy too. It's great. So there you go. Those are our highlights for Netflix. And to see the full list, again, it's not a massive list this month for June 2022, but it is available on comicbook.com. Let's head into the final portion of this week's episode. It is the Broket Block, what Macio and I have been doing since you last heard us. So Macio, what have you been up to? Playing, reading, watching? What's been going on since we last heard you?
Well, since you guys last heard me, I've been playing a lot of games. I would say right now I'm playing Nobody Saves the World on Game Pass. Really good game by the developers that made Guacamelee 1 and 2. Super fun, really good to play in co-op. And basically the gist of this game is like you're playing a wizard and you can turn yourself into all these different forms. So you can turn yourself into a horse, a rat, a necromancer, like all these different types of beings. And then you fight all these monsters. The gameplay gets a little bit repetitive because realistically it plays almost like a Zelda in the outer world, but then you go into these dungeons, and when you go in the dungeon, there's no like puzzles or anything like that. It's just kill everything in sight. So it gets a little bit repetitive there, but it's still fun because you're always constantly unlocking a new form, new powers, new abilities. So I've been playing that. Overcooked. I bought the Overcooked all you can eat. So it's like Overcooked 1, Overcooked 2, and then all the DLC. And I played through all of that with my wife. I would definitely say if you want to test your relationship, if you really want to see that you love your partner and you can collaborate and work well together, definitely play Overcooked with your significant other. Don't play it with any friends, just with your significant other. That shit is hilarious. It's fun. It's almost like a bonding experience because you're working together to a common goal of getting like 3 stars or 4 stars on the level. And it's just like a cooking game. You have to like make certain orders, but it gets hectic and the levels change, things break away. You got to warp through fucking walls. You'll be cooking something and the next thing you know, that shit just disappears. It falls through the floor. So it gets pretty deep. So that's what I've pretty much been playing the past like month and a half.
See, when you describe play with your significant other and to test your relationship, I'm thinking Catherine. Does it ask you weird questions or anything like that?
No. It's just straight up, can you work well with your partner? It's just all about collaboration. Can you collaborate with your partner to a common goal? And it seems like a lot of people, they usually just either play it alone, because you could play it alone, but then you have to navigate 2 characters. So it's kind of difficult because like you'll be playing one character with the left stick and one character with the right stick. And I couldn't fucking do it. I know there's probably some people that are like gods at that, but my brain couldn't handle it. So I played it with my wife and we had so much fun. A lot of yelling, but we got through it. We beat every level. Didn't get 4 stars on every level because some of those levels get kind of crazy. But we ran through every single bit of the DLC. It's really, really fun. And now, once we finish Nobody Saves the World, I don't even know what I'm going to play next. There's not too many things coming out. I guess we kind of have to wait and see what Jeff can bring us.
Sure. Or in the meantime, you can enjoy plenty more of the great offerings on Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of slow. I'm not going to lie. There hasn't really been any like super huge games that's released in the past like month and a half on Game Pass. I know Sniper Elite 5 comes out this week, or it just came out yesterday, one or two. And that's supposed to be a big release. But other than that, it's been kind of quiet. But there's so much shit that came out in like January, February, December. Like if you've just been gaming on Horizon 2 or Halo, you got a bunch of shit you can play. I mean, Nobody Saves the World came out, I think, in February, and I just started playing it like 2 weeks ago.
Well, there you go. They're just giving gamers a break because there's so many great releases that they already put up on Game Pass. And if not, that Sniper Elite game sounds awesome. Going around being a sniper. I know nothing about it, but it sounds great. I'd definitely give it a shot if I had Game Pass. Microsoft's Game Pass. I have to make that clear. My coworkers are learning what I own and don't own stock in. Like at the shop, Bobby, I was restocking all the stuff and I noticed they were all Pepsi products. I'm like, all Pepsi? And he's like, yep, got to get the Mountain Dew. And I'm like, I love it. That's great. Pepsi is amazing. And I love the wide range of products. Look at all this. And I finally told him, I'm like, I got stock in Pepsi.
You can't convince me to go to AMC though. I'm sorry.
I don't have stock in AMC.
Oh, that's somebody else in the Discord then mixing you up.
I will try to convince you to go to Taco Bell though. They just brought back the Mexican pizza.
They just closed the Taco Bell bun.
Well, you got to make business decisions. You can't just have.
I don't know how they like to say, but I guess since Taco Bell's kind of like a franchise thing, it might not be true, but they usually say like, oh, like those type of restaurants closing down is not a good sign. Like,
right.
You know, like what's going on with GameStop, like they're closing stores. They're closing more stores than they're opening every year. And that's like, oh, that's the sign of a business going downhill.
Well, every time I go in a GameStop, sometimes Scott and I will meet up there right before we go out to dinner. Yeah, I go in there and I use my $5 monthly coupon on like pop protectors, or maybe I'll find something that I can flip on eBay or whatever. But otherwise, I'm like, okay, there's some used games. There's a bunch of statues and keychains and shit that I would not order for the comic shop personally. So I'm like, I don't know how you guys are clearing it out. And I know they have the online stuff and all of that, but it does seem like there's no identity to the stores anymore. And that's kind of weird to say, but that's what it feels like compared to what it was when we were working at GameStop.
Yeah, somebody at my job, they gave me a gift card to GameStop, and I just went in there and I was like, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I don't want to buy anything in here. And then I'm looking at the games, and like the stuff that they had on the wall made zero sense to the stuff that, like, I was like, what's going on in this bitch? I remember when we used to work there, we made sure like the prominent shit was on the wall. Like, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what? They had like fucking Miss Pac-Man or some shit. Like, I didn't even know that was on disc. I thought that would be like only a digital thing, but they had that on the wall. And then they had Tiny Tina Wonderlands like on the side as a spine. And I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
This game came out like 2 months ago. It came out in like March. And this is a used copy. It was a used copy. I'm like, y'all not putting this just in the middle, like front and, center. Like, that's a game that just came out, and it was on sale too. It was $40. I'm like, what are you guys doing in here? And once I seen that, I was like, oh, they don't even give a fuck. They're just kind of in here getting a check. So I just walked out, and I ended up using the gift card on like a headset online, because I'm like, they didn't have anything. They didn't have anything on the wall. They didn't have accessories. Like, unless I was going in there to buy a Pop or an Apple Watch, like there was nothing for me to buy.
Or Pokemon cards or Magic cards they have in there. They have all kinds of shit that I'm like, I never would have guessed we would have started carrying fucking cards and board games and toys and shit. Like, it's just really bizarre to me. And it's the same shit every week. Like, it hasn't moved. It hasn't sold. I don't know. I wish them luck, but I think you're right. I think it's going to move on to more stores closing. Maybe they can be an online retailer and just pray that they still release physical games with the next gen.
Yeah, it's not looking good because Sony actually just came out and said that only 20 on PlayStation 5, 20% of their sales are physical and 80% are digital. So it's not looking good.
And I'm sure it's even more skewed with Game Pass on Xbox.
Oh yeah, like they're already saying that Microsoft is like pretty much like that's the digital console. Like the Series X and Series S is just the digital console. People are not buying physical at all on those consoles. It's all straight just digital sales and Game Pass.
Yeah, I think it was Jared or someone that said that they just play Game Pass. They don't really buy games anymore.
For the most part, same with me. I mean, I bought Overcooked, but other than that, like I pretty much don't buy. I don't need to buy anything because everything that comes out, if it doesn't come to Game Pass, I have so much shit to play on Game Pass that I don't even have time to buy a game and play that. Like I want to play Elden Ring, but the games just keep coming. And I'm sure it's gonna happen with the Sony, with the PlayStation Plus. There's just gonna be so many games going on there that you're like, I don't need to buy anything.
Exactly right. And like you said, hopefully the Summer of Games, we'll see a lot of great stuff on there. I would definitely love to have you on for that episode when that releases and see if another Brocat Core member wants to host as well with us. And that'll be exciting. Anything else that you wanted to discuss? I don't know if you wanted to mention the recent health thing. I can cut it out if you don't.
It's just wash your hands, man, so you don't catch it. You would think, it's, the pandemic and all that stuff that you would be paying it. I would be paying hands more. And I think I do. I fucking have a bottle of hand sanitizer that gets switched out probably every 2 weeks at my desk. I feel like I wash my hands a lot and I still got a fucking infection and I had to get some antibiotics and shit. Like I low key thought I had COVID just to end up waking up and just taking the worst shit of my life. And, like I woke up, my bed was a damn near a pool because it was just sweat. I took like the worst shit in my life. It's the fucking horrible. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the doctor and I was like, oh yeah, man, you got an infection, dude. Like here's some antibiotics. We're going to send this off to the lab. And if we need to get you on something else, then we'll let you know. So it's like this year has been like terrible for my fucking physical health between the crazy ass headaches I had with my fucking tooth that I had to get removed because it was cracked. Then I got fucking infected, or I guess I infected myself because I wasn't washing my hands. Between that, now I went to the beach last week and now I look like a fucking Dalmatian. Like I have fucking vitiligo. Because my skin is like 5 different colors and it's fucking peeling. It looks gross as shit. So, like, I'm just fucking myself up right here. Like, and it's hilarious because other than that, like, I'm fucking feel great. Mm-hmm. Between all that shit, I actually feel great. But it's like my health actually is shit. But I feel fine. I guess, just stay out of the sun for the next like week. Let my skin come back to its natural color, and then I'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and I only laugh because now we know you're okay. Like that was when.
Yeah. I was laughing the whole time when I was like, oh man, I'm cool. And then like I just kept like nothing got better. Like I was still sweating every night and shit. And I'm like, that's not normal. I never used to fucking make the bed turn into a fucking lake when I go to sleep. Even it wouldn't matter how cold it was. It wouldn't matter if I wasn't wearing anything. It wouldn't matter if I had no covers on. Like it was miserable.
Right, body trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, you got an infection. I'm like, oh, cool. Just take these pills for a week and you'll be good. I honestly, I was cleared up at like the second day, but
good.
I just make sure finish off the fucking prescription and boom, dust that off.
I had my little run-in with COVID. Not that I caught it, but there was a customer who had COVID, sent his friend in to pick up his order, and we need to check IDs because anyone can say, yeah, I'm picking up an order for this person, and that has been a problem in the past. Don't check IDs, give it to someone. Wait a minute, where's my stuff? The actual person comes in. So check IDs on all the orders. Unless you put your friend's name on the order, though, they can't pick up your order for you. And that was a problem. And it's like, well, he has COVID, and it's like, okay, well, we can ship it to you. You can contact customer service. They can cancel it, refund you, and then your friend can pick up your stuff here instead. Now, nope. He came in with he's like, all right, his friend fucking came in. He's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go get him, and he's gonna come in with a mask, I guess. And me calling him out on his bluff, like, okay, sure. Like I'm thinking he's going, well, I'm gonna tell him this, and they'll go, okay, no, never mind. Here you go. But no, he fucking called his bluff, and he fucking came in, fucking mask, coughing and shit.
He wanted shit, bro.
He wanted his fucking shit that bad, his fucking cards.
But the crazy shit is that the dude was in the car with him.
Without a mask, yes. Now I'm not saying masks work or don't work, but he has it now. There's no way he doesn't have it.
No, it's not even about like, oh, he had a mask or he didn't have a mask. Like, dude, like, why is he even with you?
Mm-hmm.
If you're picking up his shit, why is he in the car? You're the one picking it up. What is he doing in the car?
That also made me doubt a little bit when he was in there, like coughing and stuff. I'm like, okay, is he overplaying it to be like, oh, look, I have it, and you made me come all the way down here because his friend didn't care? Like he gave him a ride and whatever, or he just didn't give a shit and he's like, I'll catch COVID or what? I don't know. It's very fascinating to me still, but I was mad because I'm like, you really need your fucking cards that bad, dude? I would have been like, just ship it to me.
Yeah, like you're clearly not going to be playing with these shits.
He is apparently. He's gonna go play somewhere, I guess. I don't know. He needs
probably
him that
with
bad.
a friend.
Yeah, there you go. That answers all that. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll have it. I don't, because I'm not sick right now, so whatever. But it just kind of made me really upset. Of like, all right, there's nothing that will stop someone from like wanting their stuff. They could literally be dying. It's like, well, I still need to get my stuff. I don't care about exposing everyone else to it. I'm more important. My cards are more important. It's fascinating.
Nuts. How was MegaCon, man?
So we went on Thursday, and this was Leo's his second MegaCon, but the first one where he recognized his characters, like, oh shit, Batman and Joker and Sonic the Hedgehog. So it was exciting to see him get excited to see all the stuff. So that was pretty special on its own. It was pretty crowded for a Thursday, and apparently it got crowded for the rest of the weekend. It was one of their most attended MegaCons in the last couple of years. So people are back into convention season. There were a ton of guests in there. Overall, I would have liked to have spent another day there because I spent the whole first day getting commissions submitted, making sure that those get done, picking up a couple of exclusive variants to the show. And I would have loved to have gone to panels. I would have loved to have gone Friday, gone to a panel, recorded, and put it up here on the show. But I couldn't do that this year, or I didn't do that this year. And yeah, it's just different with a kid, you know. I can't like necessarily run around. Like Kelly and I can't go to the different panels by ourselves, even if we were to go on Friday as well. It's just different with a kid. It's more slower paced. Like to watch the stuff he watches, show him all the cool stuff. I don't know if I'm going next year, to be honest with you. Like that's yeah. It's a whole different experience if you only go one day. I just don't feel like I get everything that I want to get done in one day. And they had it at the North-South concourse too, which fucked everything up.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I understand that first year when they put it in the North-South concourse. Why? Because a big show with a lot of money just bought the whole fucking West concourse. But to me, it just doesn't make sense for them to continue to do it in the North-South concourse. Like it's a bigger building, but not the way that MegaCon uses it. Like how they use the space doesn't make it a bigger building. Like they have to have it in the West concourse. It spreads it out more. It spreads out the cosplayers more. It's way better, and it's better for parking.
That was the big issue.
Yeah, they did terrible with parking this year. I know a couple of people that went, and the main issue is not really the people that live in Orlando, especially if they're coming from the east side, or if you just live close to the convention center in that like Millennia Metro West area, because you don't have to hop on I-4. You just pull through. Mm-hmm. Maybe you take Sand Lake, maybe you take Universal. And once you see that the traffic is kind of backed up, you could easily I'm going to just park at Point Orlando, or I'm just going to park at this random hotel and pay someone for parking and just walk or take the trolley. It's much easier when you're in that instance. But if you're not from Orlando or you're coming from like any of the surrounding areas of Orlando or maybe from Tampa and you're driving in on I-4, you're going to follow the signs and you're like, oh, I need to get off this exit. And a lot of the times with I-4, if you don't get off on your exit, you're going like miles and miles away and you have to double back. So those people got paranoid, wait in the long ass line of one exit. Their car stalls out, it overheats, they run out of gas, whatever it is, while the parking is just chugging along. And the thing is, if you're stuck on I-4 and that whole line of cars that you're behind is all trying to get in the parking lot, that's one lane that's getting into the parking. Only one lane. All the other people, they're all behind each other trying to get into one lane. Meanwhile, all the ways that aren't coming off of I-4, they're all getting into the parking lot. And it's like 4 lanes of that, and then just the one lane that's coming off of I-4 trying to get in. Like, it's a fucking mess. So they definitely need to do something. The crazy shit about it is that all of this would have been solved if Disney didn't fuck up the whole Destination Parkway train station that was supposed to be right next to the fucking convention center, because people would just take the fucking train right in and just walk.
Well, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. That where they have that convention center garage, that extra garage that's out in the middle of nowhere, before they decided to make Destination Parkway connect all the way through, so you can go like that back way to get to the Vineland Orlando premium outlets. That was supposed to be a train station where the train was supposed to pull up and come through. And Disney didn't want that to happen because the train wasn't going to connect to Disney at all. And of course, it was supposed to go from the airport all the way to the convention center. So basically help people who are just in Orlando for conventions. Mm-hmm. They would have a straight way to get to the convention center. And Disney was like, but it doesn't go to Disney though. So, and I guess it was their way to get rid of it because it actually helped them get to their competitors, because technically SeaWorld's right next to the fucking convention center. So it's almost like it's a beeline to get to SeaWorld.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
that was their real problem with it. Like, it not only does it not connect to Disney, and you guys aren't going to build a train that goes from the airport to Disney, because Disney is, they had that whole thing where they're in their own county kind of district thing that they run and they have full control over. So they're like, well, you guys aren't going to build anything that goes directly to Disney from the airport, and we can't do it because it doesn't go through only our land. So fuck that. So they paid whatever politicians to vote no to make sure that it wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. And so now they don't have enough parking. Like, when they have these type of shows where it's people that's just driving that don't fly in. Like, of course, when you have your big conventions that are big business conventions, like a Surf Expo or a Home Builders Expo, all those people are flying in. It's people flying in from China. It's people flying in from Chicago, New York. But when you got something like MegaCon, nobody from New York is flying into MegaCon. Like, they have their own convention up there. They go over there. The people that's going to MegaCon are all living in this area, or at least close enough to drive, maybe 2 or 3 hours. They're driving, and there's not enough parking at the convention center. There's not enough parking in that area, period. So you get problems like this where shit gets backed up for miles. It happens with MegaCon. It happens with, they have another, like a big volleyball tournament where that same thing happens, where the parking just gets backed up for hours. And they actually had to change how they run that volleyball tournament to have it in waves. And they encouraged pretty much all the volleyball teams to stay in the hotels near the convention center, so they could just walk and they wouldn't have to deal with the almost missing a fucking game or pushing the tournament back because people are stuck in the parking lot.
And just for context on anyone that is not from the Orlando area, obviously you figured out that this is a big media, comic, anime convention. But there were people that on Saturday, which is the busiest day, were out in the highway to drive into the convention center, and they were stuck for hours in these lines. My friend and old coworker, Sean, he posted up on Instagram, I missed out on my Brendan Fraser signing spot because here I am. And he posted a picture of this long ass line. I saw him today and he said, yeah, my wife ran out to 7-Eleven. She got out of the car. She ran to 7-Eleven, grabbed food and drinks, came back, and I had just moved a few feet. So it was
Jesus Christ.
It was that bad. And he was like, holy shit, like I know I'm missing out the Brendan Fraser thing, but I might miss out on the entire show. That's how long they were stuck in traffic. And there were people, of course, this year, again, abandoning their cars and shit.
Yep. Yeah.
Every fucking year.
I don't get it. And then on top of that, there were people that were like, oh yeah, you might somehow get out of that mess. Maybe you go through the grass or you do something to, loop back around. But then you find a parking spot and you actually get in. And then you still have to wait hours to actually get your badge registered and all that shit to go actually in any event or any fucking panel. So it's like you go there and you're just waiting in another different line. So to me, it just sounded like they just oversold. They just kept selling tickets for Saturday, and there was just way too many people for the amount of parking and the size of the event. They just don't have enough people. Like it's a worker shortage still. There's no way they had enough fucking people working that event to handle that crowd. Zero fucking way.
No way. I barely saw any MegaCon workers aside from the entrance. All the vendors were saying that it was like a record of theft at their booths.
Wow.
And I don't know what made it more prevalent this year. Maybe because it was so crowded. I don't know. But they just noticed that they're like, holy shit, one vendor did inventory and they were apparently missing over $2,000 worth of merch.
Jeez, man.
It's bad. Really bad. I don't know why. Overcrowding maybe. But yeah, I mean, even on Thursday, when I was trying to buy a couple of pops for Kelly, the Vegeta ones, I had a tough time. I'm walking around with these pops around the little booth there that they have, and I'm looking for the guy, and I'm like, oh, there you are. It's like, I could have easily seen how on a Thursday you could have walked away with product, but imagine on a fucking Saturday, I wouldn't want to work that fucking booth.
Hell no. And from the videos I saw, it was super packed. Super packed.
Yeah, fuck that on Saturdays for sure. I don't know if I'll get the itch next year to go. Who knows? I gave this a shot again this year just to it's been a few years since we've gone. Let's give it another try and see what's going on. There's some great guests. I did get a couple commissions done. I'll post those. I put them up on Discord in the Collector's Corner. So if you want to check them out, go on Discord and go on that board. Got one from Ariel Diaz, one from Ejiruki, and then I have Tony Moy that I mailed in one for him to do. He does watercolor. And he'll be doing a Morgan from Darkstalkers, and I'll post that one when it comes in. So I got my commissions, which was great, and that was a part of it. I just missed out on the whole panel experience, which is unfortunate. But there you go. That's kind of it for the podcast this week and for MegaCon and all of that. A lot of great discovery and gaming news, a lot of stuff getting adapted. Macio, thank you again for being this week's co-host, and please let them know where they can find.
You can catch me on the Discord at Mac the Murderer. You can catch me on Twitter at Mac the Murderer. And that's pretty much where I'm at, man. Holla at me.
Awesome. And there will be links to where you can find Macio in the description of today's episode. You can also head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com and you can find the link to everywhere you can find us. If you're finding that the episode gives you $1 worth of entertainment, information, whatever it may be, or more, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. And for a minimum of $1 a month, which equals out to $0.25 an episode, you can get the episodes early every single week, and you get access to the Patreon exclusive episodes. Those go up 30 days before they go up publicly. So you can enjoy some of the retrospectives ahead of everyone else, some of the extra episodes like we put up with Treasure Hunting Sonic, when we did the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 discussion and review. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Macio, and Brocat Core. All will be well. So while watching Halo, Maceo, did the thought ever go through Mass Effect would make a good show too?
Oh, absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. That I don't know what the fuck he is doing. Like that should be like automatic. Like if start the new Star Trek, you got that going on. You got Halo. There's so much sci-fi. Like everyone loves a good sci-fi story. So a Mass Effect game, especially like they got Master Chief fucking in Halo. Like Shepard fucks in the games. So that you can have a whole romance and everything in Mass Effect on the TV show and it actually be in line with the games.
Right.
And people love watching fucking aliens and humans fuck. Like that's so that's a no-brainer, man. I don't know what EA's doing. Like I don't know if they think it's going to be too expensive, but they could just sell the IP. They don't have to produce it themselves. So that's just easy, just slam dunk. And on top of that, you don't have to fuck around. You just get the white man Shepard. You can get whatever white dude you like, whatever actor you like,
Yep.
and just throw them on there. You got some nice looking human looking aliens that somehow have ass and titties.
Yep.
You get to kill people. You got shooting. Like, what else do you need in a TV show? Like, that's perfect.
Go on a fucking mission, save this little alien race or whatever. They have little tiny stories in the games too that don't have major impact on the entire game that get you a cool weapon or an upgrade or whatever. And that could be its own fucking episode. And like you were saying, hell, even like people were saying, the guy that cast as John Halo in the show, his appearance looks so generic. He looks like they were saying the base model of a creative character. Like he would make a great Shepard.
Yeah, man. Like it's such a no-brainer to me. Like, especially with some of those side stories for the character missions in Mass Effect 2, like those feel like TV show episodes.
That
like
could some of those could even be a whole fucking season.
Yeah, like the one where you are stealing something from the guy, the rich guy or whatever. For,
yes.
The woman with the hood. I can't remember her name, but that could easily be a TV show. That could have been an episode. That could have been a movie. Like that. That was like Ocean's 11 type shit. Like that was dope. Like they could easily make Mass Effect into a TV show, and they could go left with it like how they do on Halo, but it would still actually be very close to what the games do, because the games are already like a fucking telenovela damn near.
Get it on Paramount Plus, but announce it via Halo Season 2, where at the very end, the last episode of Season 2, they're getting a hailing frequency. John Halo. It's a ship, the Normandy. Credit, like black screen. Like, oh my God, like fucking crossover. Holy shit.
Hey, they might as well, man. I'm down for it, man. I've been wanting them to do something like that for a while. But to me, like, there's not even enough like ancillary Mass Effect stuff. Like, hey, even before the Halo TV show, they had like little movies and little cartoons and stuff like that were very entertaining. So EA was really pretty much bumbled with Mass Effect. Like it was huge, and they kind of just let it die for no reason.
Yep. Too big for their own good.